Breaking the Chains, Healing from Multigenerational Trauma Through Joy and Creativity by ChatGPT and Jedi Steve. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Bob Marley. Many people don't realize that the slave master also endures trauma. To inflict pain on another is not just to strip away their humanity but to diminish your own as well. Take a moment to reflect on the extent to which we have harmed one another throughout history. Question: how can acknowledging the shared trauma of both enslaved individuals and slave masters help you understand the complexities of human behavior today? Regardless of where you find yourself on the spectrum of the slave-master dynamic, it's likely that you carry the weight of your ancestors' trauma. But here's the good news: we have the power to either exorcise, heal our demons, or exorcise, magnify them. Which path will you choose? Question: what steps can you take today to begin the process of healing from inherited trauma? The bright side is that we have a choice, and before we dive into solutions, let's first discuss trauma. The trauma experienced by slaves and slave masters is fundamentally different in nature and context, though both can be considered forms of trauma. 1. Slaves. The trauma experienced by enslaved individuals was primarily a result of extreme violence, dehumanization, loss of autonomy, and the constant threat of brutality. This trauma often manifested in physical and psychological ways, including PTSD, depression, and anxiety. The trauma was collective, affecting families and communities, and was rooted in systemic oppression and exploitation. Question: how can understanding the historical context of trauma help you empathize with those who suffer today? 2. Slave masters. On the other hand, slave masters may have experienced trauma related to the moral and psychological complexities of their position. This could include the stress of maintaining control, fear of rebellion, or guilt and cognitive dissonance regarding their actions. However, their trauma was often not associated with the same level of physical danger or existential threat that slaves faced, and it was often intertwined with their identity and social status. Question: in what ways can recognizing the humanity of all individuals, including those who have caused harm, help foster healing? While both groups lived in a society structured around violence and oppression, the experiences and impacts of trauma were distinct, rooted in their differing roles within the institution of slavery. The legacy of these traumas continues to affect descendants and society as a whole today. Multigenerational trauma. Multigenerational trauma refers to the transmission of the traumatic effects and experiences across generations. This phenomenon can manifest in various ways for both descendants of enslaved individuals and descendants of slave masters. For descendants of slaves: 1. Psychological impact. Descendants may experience anxiety, depression, and PTSD symptoms as a result of inherited trauma. They might struggle with issues of identity, self-worth, and belonging, influenced by their ancestral history. Question: how can you support your mental health and foster a positive sense of identity in light of your ancestral history? 2. Cultural legacy. The collective trauma can impact cultural practices, community cohesion, and shared narratives. Stories of suffering and resilience may shape community identity and values. Question: what cultural practices can you engage in or support to honor and strengthen your community's identity? 3. Socioeconomic disparities. The lasting effects of slavery contribute to systemic inequalities, affecting education, employment, and health outcomes. These disparities can create a cycle of trauma related to economic instability and social injustice. Question: how can you advocate for systemic changes that address these disparities in your community? 4. Interpersonal relationships. Patterns of trauma can affect family dynamics and relationships, potentially leading to difficulties in attachment, communication, and emotional regulation. Question: what strategies can you implement to improve communication and emotional connections within your family? For descendants of slave masters: 1. Inherited guilt and shame. Descendants may grapple with feelings of guilt, shame, and responsibility for their ancestors' actions. This can manifest in a desire to atone or engage in social justice work. Question: how can you channel feelings of guilt into positive actions that promote healing and justice? 2. Fear of rejection. There may be anxiety about how others perceive their family history, leading to avoidance or denial of this legacy, which can hinder personal and social relationships. Question: how can you foster open conversations about your family's history to promote understanding and connection? 3. Identity conflicts. Descendants might struggle with their identity, feeling pressure to reconcile their heritage with contemporary values of equality and justice. Question: in what ways can you explore and define your identity in a way that acknowledges your heritage while embracing modern values? 4. Disconnection from history. There can be a lack of understanding or acknowledgement of the historical context of their ancestors' actions, which can lead to an incomplete or distorted family narrative. Question: how can you educate yourself and others about the historical context of your family's legacy to foster a more complete understanding? Cross-generational effects. Both groups may experience a sense of disconnection from their histories, leading to difficulties in understanding the full impact of slavery on their lives. Question: how can you begin to reconnect with your personal and ancestral history to foster healing and understanding? Healing from multi-generational trauma often involves acknowledging these histories, fostering open dialogues, and engaging in restorative practices to address the legacies of the past. Question: what restorative practices or dialogues can you initiate in your community or family to begin the healing process? In conclusion, life is for play. Joy and play are vital components of the creative process, serving as powerful antidotes to stress and trauma. When individuals engage in creative activities, whether it's painting, dancing, writing, or even playing a musical instrument, they often experience a sense of joy that transcends their daily struggles. Question: what creative activities bring you joy, and how can you incorporate them into your routine to alleviate stress? This playful engagement allows them to tap into their inner child, fostering a spirit of exploration and curiosity that can reignite passion and enthusiasm for life. The act of creating in a relaxed and enjoyable manner uplifts spirits, helping to alleviate feelings of sadness or despair. Question: how can you create an environment that encourages playfulness and creativity in your life? Moreover, these moments of joy can cultivate a sense of hope, reminding individuals of the beauty and possibility that exists even amidst challenges. Question: what steps can you take to prioritize moments of joy and hope in your life, especially during difficult times? By prioritizing playfulness and creativity, individuals can create a sanctuary where healing occurs, allowing them to reconnect with themselves and reimagine their future with optimism. Question: how can you make room for creativity and play in your daily life to support your healing journey? Jedi mode activated.
What do you guys think?